Who are you? You, the person watching this right now. Well, I don't know. You could be anybody. And while we probably share a lot of things in common, there's probably a lot about you that I can't ever quite experience firsthand. And that's just normal. I was born in a certain place, in a certain time, in a certain culture, and from there I made a bunch of decisions that, for better or for worse, took me down in a wonderful trail to who I am today. You were probably born somewhere else, at a different time, in a different culture, and made different choices to bring you, for better or worse, to where you are today. And whether our circumstances and choices were just a little different or completely opposite, by now we're both totally separate and unique individuals. And that's really wonderful. Hello, my name is Tim, nice to meet you. But these differences between people, as I'm sure you've experienced, can also be confusing. Sometimes I have a clear idea in my head of what I want, and someone else acts in a totally different way than what I want, which if you think about it makes sense, but sometimes I get it and sometimes I don't. At my best moments, I can appreciate that this other person is another person with a whole different life, and of course they have different opinions and perspectives. But at my worst, and at our worst as humans, it's almost impossible to put ourselves in another person's shoes. I can't imagine being anyone but me, and when I can't imagine being you, and you can't imagine being me, that's when arguments and bad feelings happen. Now, are there good ways to pretend that you're in somebody else's shoes and understand them better? Yes and no. I can think of a bunch of extreme ways to try and get in somebody else's shoes, but they range from difficult to impossible to just embarrassing and should not be tried. But I do have a partial solution, one that I think is actually practical and quite helpful, and here it is, surprise, it's to read books. And read anything, really. Yes, it could be a literal biography where you're learning about somebody else's actual life. Nonfiction can really do that, but fiction does this incredibly well too, maybe even better. A book or a story, if told well, makes you them. You become the characters. No matter who you are in real life, for a short while, you become someone else. That person might make decisions you would make, or they might not. That person might have beliefs you have, or they might not. That person might be you in the past, someone you've outgrown, or you in the future, a person you might aspire to become, or possibly somebody you might dread becoming. Alright, quick pause. At this point, this video might sound like I'm giving you moral homework. Hey everybody, go read a book so that you can learn about other views and come back when you've sufficiently cultured yourself. But I promise I'm not trying to be prescriptive, and you don't need to pick serious books about difficult topics. And you definitely don't need to be consciously thinking all the time, how is this helping me empathize with other people? Just reading the book, by its very nature, demands that you become someone else, and you don't really have to think about it. It'll happen to you. Whether you become a Vietnam War veteran or a mole in a boat, I think that's worth something. You only live once in real life, but in a book, you can live as someone else. Let me give you a list of some of the lives that I've lived in part in the last year. I've spent time as a Russian murderer, Abraham Lincoln's dead son Willie, a Chinese astrophysicist, a lovesick Dominican nerd who wants to be a fantasy author, a disillusioned World War II soldier, a retired British headmaster, an old farmer on the Kentucky plateau, a scorned single mother in a Puritan community, a non-binary tea monk, a boy in 1920s Illinois, a young woman in a philosophical crisis, an American man caught between his fiancée and a Parisian man named Giovanni, the actual Queen of England, a New York writer who doesn't like writing, an unjustly accused prisoner, a French magazine editor paralyzed for life, a kidnapped author, and a bug who's late for work. Now that's a lot of lives. Some of them are similar to my real life, some of them are not. Some of them were fun to experience, some of them were heartbreaking. And while it's silly and presumptive to say that reading a book makes you on equal footing with the character, that would be ridiculous. Me reading The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison doesn't make me Piccola Breedlove, and it doesn't mean I in any way really understand what it would be like to be her. But it is a step closer than I was before. And at the very least, it gives me a knowledge that this experience, or something like it, exists. So don't treat this like homework or a moral duty, just pick up a book and read. And if you get the chance, leave a comment below and let me know, what is a life that you will live this month? Or what's a life that you've lived before, obviously, right, through a book. And if you're just joining us, this is one of the Reasons to Read series. There are maybe 17, 18 videos at this point, so if you'd like to know other reasons to read, you can click on this playlist here, and I'll see you there.